Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. India. Mystical, magical, beautiful, disease-stricken, poverty-ridden, ancient land. When you think of India, you may think of Gandhi, and now nuclear arms, or COVID, outsourcing, import, export. It's the land of paradox. You go up to go down, you hurry up to slow down, you wait to move. Something that might take 15 minutes in the States might take 2 days in the East. And with a waiting list of 135 people to get on an airplane, the 135th on that waiting list may be the first to get on, and the first on that waiting list may never get on. That's India. If you can live with the rule that there are no rules. Or as one Indian gentleman said to me, there are rules in India. They are written down in the books. Just nobody follows them. Okay. If you can live with that, and that nothing makes sense, and enjoy it, then you will have a wonderful time. Now let's travel back to when I was a teenager. To when my mom, a yoga teacher, welcomed a Swami in saffron robes into our home to speak to a small group of her yoga students on the subject of spiritual life. He was masterful with words, brilliantly expounding on ancient truths, relating them into modern day situations. He inspired my mother, myself, and many others to devoted discipleship. Okay, truth be told, first time I heard him talk, I was bored. It was mildly interesting, but I felt like I knew all this somehow. And I just wanted to get to the pool party at the local country club. My father had a great joie de vivre, and he wasn't interested in all this spiritual religious stuff, but he graciously accepted my mother's interests and new teacher, always offering him a drink when he came to visit. And I think once, out of deference to my father, the Swami even took a nip. So it's like mom's going along for the ride of devoted discipleship that I got roped into. It was a case of little duck following big duck. And besides, it was another piece of the pie. You see, I was brought up with a quasi Jewish, Christian, Hindu, Buddhist, Native American mix. Seasonally, my mother converted our lemon tree into the family Hanukkah bush. She made Christmas stockings with all our names and placed them above the fireplace. We had Christmas carols with our agnostic and atheist friends, all of us singing very loudly on 5 golden rings. There was dancing Shivas, Buddhas, Christs, art honoring the earth, St. Francis in the yard, and books on all these subjects in my mother's upstairs yoga library in the hallway across from my room. And late at night, I'd peek at these books to see what wisdoms they had to offer. And the words in these books, they spoke to me. In fact, they seemed like the only words that made sense. So at 18, the legal age to vote and drink, I asked Swamiji, that's what we called him, Swamiji, to teach me to meditate. And I began a meditation practice for years to come. And he always asked me to come live at the ashram. And I always wondered what was wrong with me because I didn't want to do that. And, you know, if I did that, I had to give up everything. I mean, movies, books, men, a diet I felt comfortable with, swimming. And I always wondered, like, am I not as pure as all the resident devotees who only wanted the perfect spiritual life? But I enjoyed visiting for retreats. We all wanted the same thing: nirvana, moksha, liberation, enlightenment, salvation, freedom, peace. And so I was initiated by the Swami, formally taking him as my guru. I woke at 4 a.m. and put on my favorite long teal green Indian dress. And I met the Swami where water was sprinkled, vows were given and taken. And he said of the mala beads, he said, do not put them below the heart region to the lower regions of the body. I guess the lower regions of the body were where the unsuspecting things waited, the suspecting things, or the expecting things. That night, I was asked to his room. And when I entered, all the other lady devotees scattered and I was alone with him, which wasn't unusual. But, you know, he was sitting on his bed wearing an orange bathrobe, and that was a little unusual. And he turned to me and put out his hand and he said, what would you think about sleeping with the Swami? I was shocked. And I said, you mean like Radha and Krishna? It was a profound connection, the eternal lovers. And I think my answer shocked him because he muttered something and then he lowered his head and he said, I thought you were purer than that. And I thought you were purer than that. What does that mean? I took what I thought was the most important step I could take for my spiritual life that very early morning. And that night I'm supposed to sleep with my spiritual teacher. And if I don't, I'm not pure. I was confused. I left his room and I went to the shrine and I prayed and I said, please, please, may things get clear soon. 5 years later, they became clear. In that time, I distanced myself very slowly, but I felt guilty at the same time. So a letter circulated about another devotee who had left the ashram, and it detailed many, many things about this Swami. And I went downstairs, I was at my mom's home, and I went downstairs and I said to her, the letter is true. I know it's true. And then I went upstairs and sat on the floor of my room with the June sun streaming through the window, feeling like my life had just been handed back to me on a silver platter. But I wondered, how would I get to India since everyone else I had known had gone with Swami X? 6 years later, I'm in my New York City apartment and I receive a call from Keating. Keating is a friend I met the summer before at a screenwriter's workshop in Aspen, Colorado. We're good buddies, just friends, not lovers. Hi, guess what? What? I'm going to India and Nepal for 4 months and then around the world. Oh, what's wrong? I'd love to go. Come with me. Yeah, right. Just up and leave New York? I mean, how's that going to happen? But my heart, it jumped. It just jumped. And I so wanted to go. So July 4th, I called my parents, Independence Day. Hi, guess what? I'm going to India and Nepal. Hello? Hello? My father's voice started to speak, but he was concerned. But Dad, you've been there before. And I could hear my mother's voice crack with tears and an unspoken fears that her daughter was going down the wrong path. Despite the underwhelming enthusiasm of parents, I received an outpouring of support from friends and other family members. My great aunt, who's 90, called me up and she said, go, do it so you have something to think about when you're my age. I don't care if it's 3 a.m. If you have doubts, if your family's giving you a hard time, you call me. I'll be there to tell you to go. You don't want to think shoulda, coulda, woulda. when you're my age, how much money do you need? With that kind of support, you can't not go. But my mind continued its case, pounding its fists like a lawyer, making final points in a losing summation of all the logic of why I shouldn't go. But in the midst of this, my heart had an even and steady hold. India, India, India. I threw my life upside down to hopefully return to land on old ground in a new way. Something deeper was calling. And parents, they end up buying me long underwear, Capeline, Patagonia, and a water purifier and a Gore-Tex jacket to keep me warm, healthy, and alive, because they figured if they can't fight me, they better join me. And quite respectful of how I pulled this whole trip together, my mother now wishes she was going herself. Keating and I land at Delhi International Airport at some God unknown hour of the morning. And it ain't Kansas, Toto. It smells different. It's like I walked into an oven dripping with thick, hot, heavy gauze, incense, cow dung. Oh, and there's lots of guards with guns. And I see my first big Indian cows, big white holy ones with long droopy necks, horns, skinny ones, white ones, black ones. Cab drivers. Some drive with their lights on, and others do not. Keating and I get in one that doesn't. And about halfway to our destination, the driver pulls to the side of the road and says, tea, tea, tea. Keating and I tumble out, and Keating accepts tea from the roadside stand, but I have to pee. Pee, pee, pee. Wait. We get back in the car, driver drives on, pulls to the side of the road, and I get out of the car thinking this must be my spot to pee. So I run to the back of the cab, but I hear a voice and it's shouting in my direction. And it's saying, hey, hey, hey. And I think it's somebody who's going to say, hey, hey, don't pee there. So I squat and pee as fast as I can, to realize in a few more hays, it's just a man on a bullock cart, bells singing from around the bull's neck, him still saying, hey, hey, hey. We're dropped off at a hotel with no hot water, but it's 3 a.m. Do I care? I'm in India. I made it. And where the hell am I? I feel like I'm lost. Everything's turning me out upside down, inside out, and around. Like I'm lost in Bertolucci's movie, The Sheltering Sky. And that's the only movie I ever walked out of. The next morning, I look out our second story window and I see a tailor on the street below. And he's ironing pants with a iron the size of a small watermelon, black and heavy. And with all the, craziness and fears and worries and concerns and feeling lost, watching him iron well anchors me in the chaos. And for this moment, I feel safe. Keating and I moved to a hotel, the YWCA. And it's clean, and there's healthy food and hot showers. And we take to the streets looking to change our monies. And rickshaw drivers come to us asking us to change our money with them. We can change your money, and we can drive you anywhere, and we can bring you hashish. Coca-Cola? I let Keating handle it, and we get 30 rupees on the dollar. But, Keating and my relationship quickly deteriorates. He thinks I'm high maintenance because I ask for water without ice and with lemon. Not in India, on the plane. And he's always walking 10 paces ahead, and he won't ask for directions. And then he turns to taunt me and says, how are you going to do it in the mountains? And I say, that's why I'm not going with you. I feel like a human pincushion. Every emotion gets pricked, and feelings are old before you know it. They change so fast. And Delhi is New York City magnified in poverty, homelessness, car exhaust, traffic, insanity, noise. My lungs hurt, and I walk fast, like I know where I'm going, like I'm in New York. Yet I feel softer here. It's New York minus the threat of violent crime. Even though approached from all sides by men, women, and children, I don't feel threatened. With a wave of my arm, ne chahiye, not needing, people leave me alone. And in Delhi, there are elephants, cows, cars, bicycles, begging children, street peddlers, street starvation, street funerals, shoe cleaners, ear cleaners, men offering to clean your ears with written testimonials from foreigners in little black books as to their good job. Look here, I clean his ears very well. I clean your ears too. No, thank you. And there are lepers and holy men, everywhere holy men, gurus, monks, swamis, and someone to lead you to God. I visit the Ramakrishna mission in Delhi. Ramakrishna, who these missions sprang up after, was born in 1836, and he practiced various spiritual disciplines, everything from Christianity to Islam. And over again, he attained the same God consciousness. And his firsthand experience and message was that all religions, when they are stripped of their dogma, doctrines, and creeds, they are in harmony with each other. And when he died in 1886, his prime disciple, Swami Vivekananda, started the missions for humanitarian service the world over. And he came to America in 1893 and spoke. He gave a groundbreaking speech at the very first Parliament of the world's religions, calling for the unity of all religions and harmony of all spiritual religious disciplines. This was the order of monks Swami X belonged to before he left the order and came to America to do his own thing. So after being soaked in this tradition for many years, it's my way of paying respect and like stopping at the missions like home bases, and in case I needed help along the way. So I meet up with the head Swami in New Delhi and I'm offered prasad. And prasad means it's blessed, like blessed candy. So I go for the last cashew nut, and I'm really enjoying the conversation and nodding politely, and I start to move this towards my mouth and notice an ugly roach-like bug crawling out. And the cashew nut is shaped like a crescent moon or a half circle, and the bug crawled out from the space between the two ends of the crescent. And I don't know how it slid in there because it was bigger than the nut, but this is India and there's overcrowding, and so it probably knows how to accommodate itself. And it's not like I'm humanitarian towards bugs. I mean, I've killed bugs. I'm sorry, I have, but I couldn't eat it, and I couldn't say anything. That would be rude. And I know it's protein, but it's not good form. It's not holy not to eat it. And I know the nut is blessed and probably the bug is blessed, but I just couldn't do it. And so I put him on the teacup plate and let him go back to the kitchen. And the Swami talks to me about meditation, japa, which is doing mantra on your mala beads, just like a rosary, but different. And then he brightly says, conflict is good. It is good because it's a sign that you are going in the supreme direction of life. Because if we were perfectly content, we would seek nothing higher. And I think, okay, I'm going in the right direction. Now, before I left the United States, I agreed that while Keating trekked in the north, I would go on pilgrimage to two of the holiest temple sites in all of India. My mother knew the woman leading the group, from another ashram, not the one I belonged to. So I hopped on the bus in Delhi with this new group of people, and we traveled to the city of Rishikesh. Now, Rishikesh in ancient texts is said to be an ancient city. So you know it is older than the oldest. When I got off the bus, I felt a part of my body rise up, and I wanted to bathe in the Ganga and sit by that river. And something embraced my being and whispered, "You are home." Home, home on the range, where the gurus and swamis all pray, and seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the rishis chant mantras all day. The first afternoon, a few new friends and I walked down to the Ganga, and a Bengali man on crutches approached us. And he said, "Would you mail this letter for me to my sister in Switzerland? And would you pay for the stamp, please?" He was beautiful. He had pure white hair and a little beard and the most beautiful brown eyes. And he told me he was a leper, and he showed me his sores. And I hesitated, and somebody else from the group jumped in and paid for the stamp. And I was glad he got his letter mailed, but it was like suddenly a snake was charmed out of its basket, and guilt hissed at me. Who do you give to and who do you pass by? One of the eternal questions while traveling, even in New York City subways. I learned to question less. Give when you feel like giving. Don't give when you don't want to. Remember, in India, you just let go. 7 a.m. the next morning arrived too early, and Devendra, our tour guide's voice rings out, "Hari, hari, hari!" We get on a bus that waits to leave. We drive to town in the opposite direction of our destination, fill the bus up with gas, drive back to the ashram, and wait some more. 8 o'clock, we're on our way. 8:30, we're stopped by a landslide. Cars, buses, and trucks line the roads in opposite direction. And I'm thinking, okay, let's go back to the ashram. Let's start again tomorrow. Or better yet, let's just call the whole thing off. But I wasn't in charge. So I hear the voice. You know how some people say they hear voices, or they channel, like, they hear Jesus or Mother Mary or Euripides or Rousseau. I have a voice too. And back in the United States, it had told me the bus will not fall off the road, though it might look that way. And it had told me there may be some unsavory places to sleep, but you'll be fine. So now I hear the voice again, but this time it sounds more like Larry, Curly, and Moe, and it's speaking in an Indian accent. It's saying, "What's the rush? You got all day? Buy apples, peel them, and watch the people with tiny shovels pick chips away at the fallen debris." So I buy apples, I peel them, and I talk to Englishmen on a fishing trip. I'm still confused about why Englishmen come to India to fish. When the slide is all tidied up, we are finally on our way for a 12-hour drive. Now, I imagine if I knew it was going to be 12 hours, I'd still be back at the ashram. Smut on our faces from dusty roads, open windows, no air conditioner. We endure hairpin turns, missing another traveler or a long descent over the cliff by inches. It's up, 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 and down, 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 with drops of thousands of feet, no side rails. and several close calls have me calling out, holy, the new mantra. And I am sweating head to toe, and my face and hands are caked with black, and I feel sick. And again, I hear the voice, and it says, what's the rush? Be here now. Kedarnath, the temple is not the goal. It's just the journey. There's nowhere to go. Be here now. Feeling sick and nauseated? Stop fighting it. Be sick, be nauseated. No goal, no trip, just journey. Be here now. Okay. And I never knew our more basic bodily functions would take such importance and priority in life. You either go or you don't go. There's no in between. Go all the time or don't go. At a bus in Srinagar, I sit on an Indian-style toilet, a little hole in the ground, calling out to this wonderful, friendly Swami on the tour bus. I'm still here. Don't leave me. And I hear him telling others, let her rush. Don't let her be. Let her be. Don't rush her. Don't rush her. That's all right. No rush. You take your time. And I'm afraid they're all going to leave without me. And as Providence would have it, stones get stuck in the tires and we all have to wait anyway. And while we're waiting, Swami Vimalananda and I are in a small pasture-like area, looking out over fields of grass, when he turns and says, God takes care of all things. Not a blade of grass moves without the will of God. He's so saintly, this man. Arriving at our luxury accommodations, I dub it Spider Hotel. Huge black hairy spiders grace the room, glued to the walls above our heads. And later in our journey, we would meet up with Fleabag Motel, where something bit and I erupted with red itching welts all over my upper body. And if you don't have anything while traveling for red itching welts, Crest Mint Gel is great. These were our traveling conditions for 6 days and nights. The next morning, we begin our trek to Kedarnath. To get there, one must endure a 7-hour pony ride up the mountain or be carried in baskets on the backs of porters. We don't have the luxury of the latter. So with ponies and guides assigned, we begin the trek up. And we pass thatched roof tea houses, old toothy women and young toddlers carried in the baskets on the backs of porters, wildflowers in our hair, all climbing to reach the top. And when we arrive at the top of the mountain by the Shiva Temple, it is beautiful. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. It's stunning. Next morning arrives too early, and we get up, and on cold stone and bare feet, we walk to the temple, and a chill races up my calf. And we enter the temple where there are lines of people starting to circumambulate, like the lines for a movie or a concert on a Saturday night. And we get in, and I swirl with a cold and a slight fever, and I squat to avoid fainting. And then we're ushered into another smaller, dark, danky chamber. And then before us, we find a Shiva Lingam, the great Shiva Lingam. It's like a great rock that is a specific symbol to Shiva, a venerated symbol of the light of consciousness, way more than the light of consciousness. And we surround this lingam in groups of 4 or 5, and priests anoint our heads with incense and powder, and they pour over the lingam what looks like honey water and roses and milk, and we give an offering of rupees, and we touch the ancient walls, and we leave. And we leave, and there are circles and circles and circles of people. This is their pilgrimage to Mecca. They have waited a lifetime to be here. And after breakfast, pictures are taken. There always has to be pictures, right? Say cheese, say chapatis. And then we are running down the hill like the race for a woman's room after a good movie. And Devandra's voice rings out, Hari, Hari, Hari. And we're hurrying, hurrying, hurrying. And I want to stop. I don't understand. It's like saying, come to India, but don't look, don't look, don't look. I want to stop and talk to the people in the thatched roof tea houses. I want to know, what are they thinking? Do they enjoy serving tea? Could I serve tea the rest of my life and be happy the way they serve tea? And I probably couldn't talk to them anyway because of the language. So we just go, hello, namaste, namaste. And we know we're all pilgrimages. We're all pilgrims on the same journey. But somehow I think they know it better than I. And I walk down the mountain the 7 hours because my butt and back are too sore from the pony ride the day before on the way up. And we wait on a bus for 2 hours before we can finally leave. Badrinath is the Vishnu Temple, the second temple we visit. It is considered one of the most holy temple sites in all of India and has been threatened by terrorists. So at the entrance to Badrinath, the men are ordered off the bus and searched by young machine gun carrying soldiers. The women are searched on the bus. We pass inspection and are allowed through the gateways into paradise. In Badrinath, I felt like I was walking in the time of Christ. Steamy mist rose from burning hot sulfur springs where we took our wash for purification and refreshment before going to the temple. Holiness pervaded the air, and beggars lined the bridge. And as we approach, there is an increasingly loud, carousing pace. Everyone in bare feet and cold stone, the air charged, singing, dancing, chanting. But I heard nothing. I was aware of all that was happening, but it was silent. I was walking as if in a stupor, but I don't stumble. With all the noise, with all the clatter and chatter, nothing bothers me. Amidst absolute craziness, I am peace. Amidst miles of clatter and chatter, I want nothing. Prayer is even too loud. It already floats thick in the air, like the clouds that sit on these mountaintops, like silent emperors forever at hand, commanding while doing nothing. And the earth is praying me. The sky, the water, the wind, I understand not with a mind, but with heart, with feet, with breath, with gut, and senses that touch and taste and smell and hear and feel, to remember something ancient, real, vast. Nothing can take away this peace. And I am one with whatever is. A few days later, I'm a physical wreck with a thick, sore throat and a fever. It's hard to concentrate. And we arrive back to Rishikesh and visit a cave where a great saint meditated for years. And the next day, even with a little fever, I am compelled to return to the cave. I think, what's the difference at this point where I feel ill? So I might as well go to the cave. So I hitch a ride up the road, and I'm happy to be back on the banks of the Ganges without all the people, where I meet Raj Kumar Vatal. Raj Kumar, born under the full moon in February 1912, is kind of like the caretaker of the cave. He's almost 80 years old, and he talks to me about his guru. Sing, sing, sing. This is your sadhana. And feel, feel, feel. Always feel for others, my guru said. I was like a child in his lap. I cannot meditate or do japa now. I never could, although I tried. My mind always wandered, but I can sing, 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 and compose songs to the Lord. So for hours on end, this is what I do. He took me to his bare room with a few papers, a mat to sleep on, a picture of his guru. Then he took up his tampura and sang one of his songs. Translated, it read, easily pleased, you distribute freely. Take away my troubles, knowing me to be humble and weak. You are humble and kind, powerful and strong. Take away, Master, my great misery. I am a humble man, a simple man. I do not know very much. I missed my mother, and now I found her in the Ganga, right here on this spot. I think that if you do nothing but love the Lord with all your heart, that is all that matters and all the Lord cares for. I went to leave and hugged him goodbye. And he shouted out after me, remember me, remember me, remember me. And I said, I will never forget you. I will never forget you. And along my travels, I get into a tug of war with a goat. He's got my accoutrements, my belt, and everybody's laughing at us. And I get into haggling with shopkeepers. Hello, madame, a Buddha, madame, a lion, madame. And another shopkeeper, parlez-vous français? Non, un petit peu. You have the face of a French flower. And you wonder the price you'll have to pay for a compliment. And I meet other international travelers, but always with the same questions as to what's right or what's wrong. To speak, to not to speak, to seek, to not to seek, spiritual or mundane, holy or hell, to pee or not to pee. These are the questions that I want freedom from. And it's the most holy land of spiritual sadhana I've ever been in, and the most sensual land I have ever been in. I walk through foggy mist rolling up the mountains, and it's like spirits passing by, and well-dressed children play, and then children who have never eaten a banana play. It's a funny land, slow and then fast, ever present with a distant past, forever noisy and always in prayer. Land of fast spiritual sadhanas, austerities and woes, land of my heart, land of gold. I leave this wonderful group I've been traveling with and return to Delhi with someone from the Canadian consulate. And I stop at a mosque where I see Keating, and we run to each other and we greet each other like a train station meeting of not having seen someone in a long time. And we throw our arms around each other, hugging each other, and someone's going, no, 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 no. And I'm like, what? And someone says, you're not supposed to touch. And I was like, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And I'm driving with my Canadian consulate friend, and women and a few men are temporarily blocking the road, waving signs and chanting in Hindi. And the signs say, Delhi Women's Network Against Domestic Violence. And we are saying, yes, we are with you, sisterhood. And now I need to decide, will I go to Benares, the ancient city of Kashi, or Calcutta? And it is said if you go and die in Benares, that you will attain complete immediate enlightenment and go directly to Shiva's abode. And the great god Shiva literally means auspicious. And I'm thinking about the Hindu trinity, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, and then about the Divine Mother, who stands above all, she whom all return to, she who this world spins like on the head of a pin. And her love is deeper than any ocean and greater than all the grains of sand in the sea and more than all the stars in the sky, and her grace is limitless and unfathomable. And so I'm not planning to die on this trip. And I want 2 weeks for a trip to Benares, and I only have 3 days, so I go to Calcutta. The desk clerk at the YWCA in Delhi said he knew the manager at the Taj Bengal, the 5-star hotel in Calcutta. And he said I could stay there for $20 a night. And he gave me a piece of paper with someone's name on it. So I arrive in Calcutta, and I first go to a place called the Cultural Institute, which I'm also told about, to see if I want to stay there. And I go to the Cultural Institute, and I decide I'm going to the 5-star hotel. And I'm hoping, praying that this will work out. It'll only be $20 a night. It isn't. And I find that out way too late. So when I arrive, I am shown to my room by a bellhop, give him a tip. And this is a 5-star hotel. And they have fruits and liquor and courtesy chocolate, which I start stuffing down as fast as I can. And it's cool. And there's a fan, and I can hear the birds near the window. And I decide to go try and find the pool, and it's closed, so I take a bath, a bubble bath. And I feel like I beat a retreat from the streets to this Golden Glass Castle hotel, and I'm still not sure where I'm more at home, the place I just left or here. And so I turn the TV on, and I'm bouncing on a king-size bed. And guess what's playing on TV? Fiddler on the Roof. He fiddles when it rains, he fiddles when it snows. I never see him stop, yet on and on he goes. Hey! And I am bouncing, and then I am sobbing. And I'm thinking about how Jews are being persecuted on TV in Russia. And I'm thinking about the bellhop and the desk clerk and the waiters and all the people that work at this hotel, and where do they go at night, and where do they sleep, and are there enough beds for their children, and I've invited them all into my head with me, and what do they think about me? Someone who can slap money down and get a room for the night. So I take a nap, and I wake up, and I go to dinner. And on the way back from dinner, I get in the elevator, and a very eager bellhop jumps in after me. And he says to me, I have been a Buddhist for 30 years. That's nice. My sister has been a Buddhist nun for 40 years. Wow. Are you beyond materialism? No. I have other investments than working at this hotel. And I'm wondering, what are his other investments? I mean, spiritual investments? That's what I'm thinking. And I said, what are your other investments? The stock market, the Asian stock market. But you must strike while hot. And then he looks at me with such relief, and he says, it is such a relief talking to you. He said, because talking to other Buddhists, everything is about nothing. I'm like, oh. The next morning, I get up and I end up going to Dakshineswar. Dakshineswar to see the Kali temple. Kali was the great goddess Ramakrishna was devoted to, and one of the many aspects or faces of the Divine Mother. I would see his room where he worshiped and prayed, which supposedly had extraordinary vibes. And my driver, we drove through Tent City, where thousands are packed. And an older woman comes to the car to ask for money. And I'm so drawn into her dance. And I then also start to dance into my rupee purse. And I give her money. And she waves in her purple shawl, her long, beautiful gray hair. And giving breaks me down. I can say no to the children, but the elderly are like my parents and my grandparents and aunts and uncles. And I'm feeling nauseous. And all I want to do is lay down, or better yet, be back at the Golden Glass Castle with Tevye and chocolates. And I'm thinking, lead me from the unreal to the real. Lead me from darkness to light. Lead me from death to immortality. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya. Om Tamaso Marjotir Gamaya. Om Ritiorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Ritiorma Amritam Gamaya. And my driver parks, and I pass bodies, maimed, broken and begging, people and more people, and a man who's clearly left this world. And the temple site is packed, and I'm looking for the master's room, and I approach this room that I think is his, and I give up. And I think, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Om Masato Ma Sadgamaya. Om Tamaso Ma Jyotir Gamaya. Om Ritiorma Amrakam Gamaya. Om Ritiorma Amritam Gamaya. And with renewed vigor, I push my way through this room that I think is his, or I am pushed, and I know what being crushed to death is like, because my feet at moments do not touch the ground, and I am moved between bodies, pushing to get to the other side, floating through the air in a new kind of out-of-body experience. And finally, on the other side, there is nothing, just a bathing ghat, a place where people bathe. And I still don't know what people were trying to move through that room for. And so with a deep breath, because I don't know if I have enough room in my lungs to inhale again, I begin to walk or fly back to the other side. And I'm holding on to my bag for dear life. And I get into the main complex, and there is breath and air and rain and mud and no shoes, people. And I'm thinking, I'm alive. And this is not bliss. And suddenly I hear a voice. Over a megaphone, for my ears only. And it's the Divine Mother. And she's calling me. And I hear her say, I'm everywhere. Leave the complex now. Leave the complex now. And I'm thinking, you're right. What the hell am I doing? You're everywhere. And I don't have to see some room where someone worshipped you 100 years ago, or your statue or temple, Mother of the universe, God of gods, of all that is, Great Spirit. You're everywhere. And I don't have to have affiliations, Mother, Jewish, Christian, Hindu, Buddhist, Native American mix. You're everywhere. I'm not in anything. I'm in everything. And I practically run through the gates, and I jump into my shoes, and I pass the dead man. And I think about his body and his soul being free, and the kind of life he must have had, if there's any family, and the burning of the body, and who will take it to the Ganges, and where's his next life going to be. And that's what I do. I think about the afterlife of people who die, even in the movies. Like, did Romeo and Juliet merge in astral bliss? And I'm walking and breathing and walking and breathing, and despair is the meditation. And my cells are turning inside out and upside down, and they're being blenderized. And yet, as I was experiencing everything, I was strangely lifted up above everything, like I was in a surreal play, witnessing, watching, and knowing, and still feeling. And I realized, I'm not peaceful. But I'm numb. That's good enough. And I get into the car with my driver, and with sunglasses on my face, we drive to my next destination. There's a lot more. There's a lot more about what happens and how I get out of Calcutta when I have a ticket that is 117 on the waiting list. But we'll save that for another time. A destiny walked me through India. India, India, India. And it also returned me to New York. And one night I had a dream in which the poet Rumi appeared. And at the end of the dream voice said to me, when you know that nothing can harm you, ever, from inside or out, then your real ministry for peace begins. And so walk. Even in dreams, the heart speaks. And thinking about meditation, peace, God, lofty thoughts, or any ideal of what a lofty thought should be became absurd. The meditation when I traveled was remembering to breathe. It was one lift of the foot, one beat of the heart. It was feeling all the feelings, hearing the noise, experiencing the nausea, the weariness in my bones, the heat on my skin, and the mud between my toes. Because then maybe I'd also hear the birds outside and feel the coolness from the fan next to the window blow, to know some lightness in the heart, that some whisper is godlike in the wind. Difference is dissolved. Ashram and world, higher and lower. A perceived right, a perceived wrong. Monks, some are truly holy. Others just doing their job for the day. The land of my heart spoke through everything, everywhere. The Holy Mother said it best. She said, no one is a stranger to you, my child. This whole world is your own. I set my feet to old ground in a new way, even if I still sometimes shook in my boots. And a few years later, I walked to the 72nd Street, stopped to go to a friend's birthday party in Queens, and I descended our holy underground subway caves, and a wave of peace washed over me like the one I felt in Badrinath. And I was in awe because here I was on the hysteria of New York, and I thought about all these experiences that just come to me, and I heard the voice, and it said, no, no, they come from you. Oh, the ground is ripe. The switch gets switched. The quiet grows and grace rushes forth. It comes from you. I watched the people on the subway and saw the patterns and colors in their clothes, listened to conversations, the different ethnicities, the languages, enveloped in peace, being peace, feeling the rumble of the tracks below. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Jai Kali Ma, Jai Kali Ma, Jai Kali Ma, Jai Ma. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Gloria. Allah, 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 Allah. Om Namah Shivaya. Om. 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 Home. Home. The light in my heart and the lands of my heart bow to the light and the lands in you. Thank you.